found different employers aren't always as accommodating as they could be when it comes to helping me manage my sickle cell at work. So good employers have given me the flexibility to work from home, come in later on occasion, or leave the office earlier on some occasions. And they've just been very accommodating overall in terms of leaving the office for a few hours, for example, if I need to attend a hospital appointment. Others, on the other hand, have not been that accommodating, and I found that it has been to my detriment in the workplace. It means that I can't always perform my best and has just created quite an unhappy work environment for me.
So I found that the majority of my jobs have made like allowances for me. They know that I've got this blood disorder, but they haven't really totally understood it. So there was one job that I had where it involved it was working with cars and working outside a lot, and they knew I had a blood disorder, but it didn't really bother them, and I was off a lot on that job with crises and whatnot because I was being exposed to the cold, and they just weren't allowing me to either stay inside to reduce them, so I ended up having to leave that job. So I was only there for 4 months. I feel like I don't really need accommodating because I'm just like on the outside I'm just like anyone else. I can walk and I can talk and I can all the rest of it. So it's not obvious what my needs are. I just need understanding, really.
I have been quite lucky to have managers who have been quite supportive. When you look at the statistics now, there are more and more people with long-term conditions. In my job at the moment, I probably know about 4 people with a long-term condition, and people struggle in very different ways. There's so many things going on with human beings, and I think it's become a general awareness that employers need to be, supportive to people depending on what their needs are.
With a few firms, or when I first worked at a charity, for example, they were very supportive of me having like time off or starting a bit later and things like that. So that was always there. But in terms of some employers, what I found is smaller organisations where there's quite a hierarchy feel, they haven't been that supportive of me. But then that being said, going into law and having done placements in the law environment, they've been incredibly supportive of my condition. So I think it's just all about just different attitudes within different firms. There have been some that have been amazing and some that have been subpar.
My employer has been able to provide some accommodations and some adjustments in the workplace, such as the ability to work from home, a work phone so that if I do need to leave the office that I'm still contactable, and a home laptop in order for me to work from home, taxis home if I'm ever leaving the office late, all of which kind of help me to manage my sickle cell slightly better.
Well, with reasonable adjustments, I went down the route of Access to Work, which is a government organisation that provides people with disabilities, long-term chronic conditions, a way into the workplace, to them actually being sustainably working within that environment. So through them, and I guess they partnered up with my workplace, I receive things like taxis to work when I don't feel well, an ergonomic chair, and software as well. So when my concentration is low, I can use the software to sort of stay on top of my tasks.
As a trainee solicitor, my hours are quite long and the job is very demanding and can often be quite pressured, which obviously with sickle cell can put quite a large strain on my health. So I think over the years I've just been very mindful to try and manage expectations in the workplace and pay more attention to how my body is coping when I'm under that amount of pressure and working those long hours.
My job is really demanding. It's very high pressure. It's very fast paced, and it can be quite challenging to balance my health and my job. You have that sense of I am tired. I might be in a bit of pain, but I'm in a very important meeting right now and I can't show it.
In the past, I've been quite reluctant to disclose sickle cell as a disability or as a long-term health condition at the recruitment stage, and I generally would prefer to mention it after I'd got the job and had been in it for either a few weeks or a few months. But now I've realised that isn't always the best approach, because sometimes by leaving it that late, you're allowing issues to arise and the plan isn't always in place for you if you become unwell.
I was always reluctant to have that conversation because people don't know what it is. It's not a well-known condition, and I just at the time I lacked in confidence, and I just didn't want to kind of put myself in a situation where I had to explain something that I wasn't totally sure of myself.
I've put it down as a disability or long-term condition, and I think the reason why I sort of did that, if it was down to me I wouldn't, but due to my grades in secondary school and university, there was a need for me to put it down in order to have a reason about why my grades were where they were at and not the requirements that were required from the law firm or any other organisation. So that was the main reason I put it down, for necessity.
So before even I went for the interview, I spoke to them just to kind of know what can I do, and they told me straight, you have to disclose to them, because as that the person that recommended me told me not to say that I had sickle cell, but I didn't feel it was right. Like, this is something that affects every aspect of my life. The fact that I get tired, the fact that the medications, the side effects of them will affect me at work, the fact that I may need time to go and rest just for a bit to take my medication. This is not something I can hide. It's not like, oh, I have a scar, I can just keep this. I don't need to tell anybody about this.
I do put sickle cell down as not as a disability, but as a long-term condition that affects me on a day-to-day basis. I probably wouldn't disclose it pre-interview, just because at the time I wouldn't feel like I need any reasonable adjustments, because I can just show up to a room and talk to people.
In the past, I haven't always got a very positive reaction when I've mentioned that I have sickle cell. A lot of the times employers will initially say that they don't actually know what sickle cell is, and there isn't much understanding or awareness of what the condition is, and that has made things slightly more difficult, because it really is up to me to explain to employers what sickle cell is, how it can affect me in my day job, and kind of convey to them what reasonable support or adjustments I'll need in the workplace in order to perform my job well. In other instances, employers have been quite grateful that I've brought up my illness and have been very keen to try and discuss with me on a regular basis how I'm getting on and what more they can do to support me in the workplace.
When I started the job, I remember I had to speak to the main boss man, and he kind of just took it in his stride, really. Just kind of asked me basic questions about it. I answered him, and it was kind of like, okay, get back to work. And that was kind of it until I went to hospital. And then it used to be my manager that I'd speak to, and she'd always relay back to the main guy, because it was a small company. She'd always tell him exactly what I'd said. So me and him kind of communicated through her, if that makes sense. So I don't really know what his true feelings about it was, but the minute she said we think it's best you look for somewhere else, I kind of knew it wasn't just her decision. Yeah.
General response has been not knowing, so having no idea. So it's been more about them being receptive to me, telling them what sickle cell is and how it affects me.
Admittedly, I'm not as open as I should be with colleagues about having sickle cell. I think it is important for those that work closely with you on a day-to-day basis to be aware that you have the condition, and maybe also know what to do should you become unwell at work. I think that's due to my own lack of confidence and not being brave enough to approach the topic with colleagues. However, I always do make sure that I've told my manager or my relevant supervisor, so that they are aware that I have this condition and that it may mean I'm absent from work and I may be unwell on certain occasions. But I'm not always as open with kind of general colleagues.
No, I haven't been very open with my colleagues per se about having sickle cell, and they probably wouldn't know what to do if I had a crisis at work. For me, the reason why I haven't been open is because I just don't want to seem different, and that's something I'm still trying to work on. I guess it's something that I will need to be mature enough to sort of be open about.
My colleagues do know I have sickle cell. I'm quite open about my sickle, actually. I know a lot of people feel quite uncomfortable talking about it, but I am very confident. I try to not ram it into people's throats, but just mention it so that people are aware.
Colleagues I've never really had that conversation with colleagues, just management. So colleagues wouldn't know what to do. And thinking about it in hindsight, maybe they should. Like, I should have made everybody aware of what it was, and like if I was ever in trouble, what they needed to do. I think that could have helped.